Welcome everybody to the Fowler Museum this afternoon. I'm Stacy Barbanel. I'm the Director of External Affairs here at the museum. And this afternoon it's our pleasure to present John Valadez in what is the final Culture Fix talk that we've done in this exhibition, Mapping Another L.A, the Chicano Art Movement. And John is a realist painter and a muralist. His work can be seen in museums and private collections all over the world, and especially here in Los Angeles, and very excitedly actually is going to be the focus of a one-person show at the Museum of Contemporary Art in San Diego, opening in June. We actually have a curator here today from that museum. So I think we're getting him at a very exciting moment in his career. As a founding member of the Centro de Arte Público, he was involved in the Chicano Art Movement outside of East Los Angeles, and that's especially why we invited him here today to speak about what that was all about. So, whoops, so turn off your phones, and everyone please join me in welcoming John here today.
Okay, all right. Yes, this is it's a very interesting show because it shows the different Chicano centros that developed in the late 60s, early 70s. And a lot of us wanted to be artists, whatever that meant. In those years, it meant pretty much, because there wasn't any galleries for really a lot of us, except for like Goes. I remember going to Goes Gallery. I was at East L.A. College. I just turned 60. So you can see what the years were. 69, 70, I got out of high school, went to East L.A. College. And I was I never really considered myself an artist at the time. I didn't, because in those years there was no career thing. It was just wanting to be a political artist of some kind, something to deal with the politics and the upheaval at the time. And so I remember Goes, I remember the marches. I belonged to a theater group, and we were doing some really, pretty political inspired plays, like theatrical plays. We would do it in community centers and prisons and things. So I started to go to Long Beach State to do to study drawing and painting, and there was a centro there. So in other words, that I joined, and it was an idea of joining with other artists because we were all broke. Everybody was like, we're just going to school, work study, and there used to be like grants from the Kennedy Johnson administration. They stopped that in a few years because that was a little too weird to give radicals like us money to go to school. It's like you got to stop that. That's not going to work. And so we were part of a center there, and I was working with other artists, and we were very idealistic. But I realized that I could have a place to work. We could pool our resources together and sort of live not really communally. That didn't really happen until I get to the Public Arts Center when I finally got out of Long Beach, came to LA, and found these artists that were like-minded, and we developed the Public Arts Center, and my friend Richard Duardo did a lot of these silk screens, and some of us did silk screens with them, and you see some of the photographs when we were there. We were like I was saying, I was doing these large formatted drawings because we were doing murals, and I wanted to do work that if you would ever put it into a gallery, it would confront you. It wouldn't be something smaller. I was really involved in trying to do life-size scale imagery, more or less confrontational at the time. And really, if I would ever get into a gallery, I would be basically the position would be, I dare you to buy this stuff because nobody would really want it because you basically got a homeless guy sleeping in a phone booth. And it's funny because we don't have those anymore, right? Those are very, very rare, if anything. So it's funny how things get dated in a very strange way. And at the time, galleries weren't really in existence for a lot of us. The only, in LA, people know LA history, most of the galleries were on La Cienega. When I was in school, we would always go to La Cienega and just walk up and down the streets to see the different, there was a David Stewart gallery, and there was the LA City, there was a gallery that was affiliated, and there was other places. I remember seeing a Max Handler show. He was a hyper realist, and for some reason, I always liked realism. I wasn't too much into cartooning, so in school I would always do the, like the hand looking at you and really trying to get it, spend hours. But what happens is that I would get distracted, maybe even bored, even though I was doing it. So it was a discipline to get it done. And at the time, I finally switched to a camera. A friend of mine gave me a camera, and I would have to match these two little circles in there, and that's kind of hard to see anyway. So my pictures were always a little out of focus. But with the photographs, I was able to sit in a room and really finish a piece of work easier than having someone pose for me or those kind of things. So I started using cameras as a device, and I used that, I incorporated that in some of the murals that we were doing, because again, there wasn't any galleries at the time. The galleries really didn't start until that big art boom in New York that everyone is well aware of happened in the 80s. Robert Hughes has a really great story about it. If you ever get on YouTube, it's called something about the Mona Lisa curse. It's great. He talks about how these collectors just blew up the art market when they bought the Rauschenbergs and the Warhols and Rosenquist. He bought them for artist prices for a few thousand, and then they had this market, this famous market, and it came, the guy got rich, and Rauschenberg got really upset. It's a really great story. It's Robert Hughes, The Mona Lisa Curse, and it's on YouTube. Fascinating, really great. So at that time, I guess us as Chicanos, a lot of centros and art centers were started to kind of rely on, let's say, getting like grants through the California Arts Council and the NEA stuff. But us at the Public Arts Center, when we came in there, a lot of us had experience with working with other organizations that were doing grants. We wanted to just not do grants. We're real kind of, I don't know if we were egomaniacs or just kind of crazy, where we just thought that we want to live off of our work. It's really hard, it's tough. So we would do restaurant murals, really anything, paste up and layout in those years. And see, Carlos and Frank were part of Los Four. So they had this, they already had this track of showing, so they let some of us show with them. And then with Carlos, he really helped me out at the time at the Public Arts Center, where he was going to get a show at Otis Parsons in downtown, by MacArthur Park. And for some reason, I got into that show, and I was just floored that I would get. I had a series of these drawings, and they put them up on the one wall. Hal Glicksman, and I'm always indebted to him to letting me show there. And it wasn't really about sales. I mean, I showed people from the barrio, kids, youth, not that much like gangster stuff, but just kids, like a whole like the marginalized. And some of them were on newsprint, which are destroyed now. I would like to show them, but they're 40 years old, 30, 40 years old. And so finally, I know I'm jumping around, but that was the beginning of the exhibition thing. And I was basically, I'll be honest with everyone, that I was basically on some people's coattails. But the people that really helped me is they liked my work. It was very different than what a lot of other people were doing within the Chicano spectrum. So finally, when we get downtown, because of that whole art boom, and I guess the economy was pretty good in the 80s, in the mid to late 80s. And so people were really interested in like opening up galleries in downtown LA. Downtown was being revitalized with there was like the first, second, or third like wave of people opening up galleries and having a lot of different kind of exhibitions. And I ended up at the Victor Clothing Company, and that's where the Lace galleries were. And they showed a lot of performance art. I mean, like the guy that just passed away, Mike Kelly was there, and also like Andy Wilf, and there was High Performance Magazine was started, and they were on the fifth floor. A lot of people went through the Victor Clothing because the owner was tired of the sweatshops, and he liked the artist, so he would like rent space, and I was able to do a large mural for him called the Broadway Street Mural. Now it's in the Rand Corporation, which it's in the lobby. If you can get in there to see it, they have to take your fingerprint and stuff, make sure you have business there, which I think is it's very ironic place for it. But anyway, it's there because so anyway, the Victor Clothing, I was there for 15 years, and the guy never raised the rent. I was very lucky that I had a studio space for $200 a month for like 8 years. And there was a few times before the art boom, I couldn't pay rent for 5 months, I mean, literally, I couldn't pay it. And then finally I sold some pieces. It happened in the early to mid 80s that people were coming around looking for work. The other really vital thing at that time were people that worked in Hollywood, like actors and writers. It was like, I guess, new money. The concept about L.A. Or Southern California, you might agree or not, that people that would come into, wealth, or they had wealth or money to spend on, let's say, art, they would build a house, and you want to fill it up with art. That's the whole concept. You don't want to take over somebody else's house. You want to build your own house, right? So you get your own architect, you design it. And I was, I'm in a few of those houses, okay? And so a lot of us were really affected by that. The very first show that I had in terms of being a Chicano, after I did the Broadway Street mural, was this gallery called Adrian Samard. And it was on kind of like San Pedro off of town. And I showed my pastels, a lot of my pastels. I sold nothing. Talk about, I dare you to buy my work. Nobody did, okay? Nobody bought the work. And then the prices were fairly decent. I was still, whatever else. But eventually people came back and started to buy the work. They didn't buy it during the show, but maybe it bothered them. Maybe it did bother them. I don't know. I've talked to a few of them, but in any case, the work eventually sold, and then the Samard moved, and then after a while, I showed him different things. It's kind of hazy. Okay, I'll tell you the truth, because I was in that studio, and I would sell work out of my. It's basically selling work, which is really different than, let's say, making the work. As someone who wanted to be an artist that made a statement, was very different than I can make, a few $100,000 a year. That never crossed a lot of our minds. It's like it was a miracle that people actually did want to get work that we felt was uncompromising. So then I got a residency in Europe, and I thought that was pretty amazing. And I always kept in touch with the different artist groups, and then like Gronk. You guys know Gronk. Gronk got me into the Saxon Lee Gallery. That became the Daniel Saxon Gallery, and that was in the late 80s. into the 90s there. And then I sold to a few actors. Like, my so-called career is just kind of steady, you know? Sometimes it goes down where oh my goodness, what's up? But then I just kind of stay there, you know? I don't quit. Like I say, I'm 60. I have learned a lot of things. My mind is reeling. But what would happen is that I would be in that gallery circuit, which is kind of a grind. You got to get your work out, and you don't concentrate on what your story is or what your point of view or what you want to make work about. And then I would get a mural. I got these mural, and I've always been considered a muralist. But between the murals that I was doing back in the public arts center days, in the mid to late 70s, were basically they're all gone. They're all destroyed. Every single one of them. They're all in the streets. And then the one for Victor Clothing, the Broadway Street mural, it was up in the store forever. They finally closed down. And the Peter Norton Foundation, Peter Norton was really cool. They bought the work and they kept it together because they were just going to auction each canvas. There was like 10 canvases. They were just going to auction them off like, you know, whatever, like cards, you know. And so he kept it and he stored it. And then somehow it ends up at the, down in Santa Monica there. So that was saved along with some portraits. And then I got I got this mural stuff through the federal government. So I'm getting these murals, which is like in a federal courthouse in Santa Ana, and one is in a federal place in El Paso, Texas, which is where my family was they were from. So once in a while, being in this gallery thing and making a decent living, you know, whatever. See, I'm not starving, you see, you could tell. And then I would do some of the murals. And so the murals are inside lobbies and things. But it was real different. The whole thing about being in galleries and being an artist, you have to confront that business thing. And some of us never went to business school. Matter of fact, with the early radical politics, you know, it was like, what, you know, business? What's that? You know, I don't want to, you know, I call people names that were in business. You learn, you know, I'm 60, like I say. And so I know I kind of got scattered, but I hope you understand what I was saying. Is there any questions that might get me back to what I was going for? I kind of went off the rail, I think.
Well, maybe you could go by, if you can remember each decade, you know, like the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and then... Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Well, see, the 70s were basically getting out of Long Beach State and strategizing with other artists to have places where you could work. And that's with the Public Arts Center. And I remember even showing with the Oscar group, with Mr. Gamboa here. We would always show, and we'd all be doing our work, and I love their work from the 70s because it was so crazy. All the different kinds of work, and then when the 80s was really, I would say, the Victor Clothing time, where I was able to have my own space, and I would see them at Clifton's cafeteria, and you would go to, like, sometimes, because I was living in my studio, so I wake up in the morning like, I don't want to be, because I'd be working all night long. Wake up. So I would go to the State Theater, for like, there's 3 movies for $1.50. Was it 4 films for $1.50? So I could be somewhere else and come back in the evening and do my work and work at, go to Googie's or go to Clifton's and go to some of the art things, some of the art shows of people doing really crazy work, and even the performance work, kind of theatrical. But if it was too theatrical, there was this really weird aesthetic going on that I could barely understand. If it was too theatrical, if you were too good, it wasn't performance art. You're being the theater. It was a weird line. You got to upset people, be kind of trashy. I don't know. You know, be poetic but ironic. And have people leave with the question more than I got it. I think that was That was success. And then the galleries came and went in the 80s. It was really cool because galleries came and went, and then people would say, well, no, we're going to the west side. Downtown, you can't park. It's too hostile in the evening. Now, I mean, I've seen like, 3 different waves of people come and go. And this last one seems pretty interesting in terms of, facing the downtown, like grit, like the homeless and the drug scene. And then with the people that come in and get lost that we would pay like $700 for, they're paying like $2,000, $3,000. Like, wow, things evolve. And I got the downtown scene out of my system after 15 years. And that would be in the 90s. That's very good, by the way. Because the early 90s is when I started doing those federal mural projects, because one took 2.5 years, one took 3.5 years. So that was my 40s. Like what happened to my 40s, I was doing this public art stuff, federal. And then when the 2000s hit, I know it goes fast, huh? When that hits, it was like I got a metro station, and a lot of the murals that I've done, you really can't see them. Like I have one in the State Building in downtown. It's the Junipero Cerro, and you can't get in there. You got to have special permission. You have to talk with the building manager. I did a lecture there. I haven't even seen it for about, I guess it's about 6-7 years. There was a high school group of arts. There's like an art school in downtown. So all these kids came to see it, and I talked to them about it and stuff. And that's still there. But a lot of the other ones, they're all kind of gone. They're all just in slides and photographs. And basically, lately, I mean the last few years, I don't have too many gallery shows. I was telling Chris here that there's a lot of pressure when you get into that gallery grind. And a gallery for an artist is like a marriage. It really is a marriage without, the romance, I guess. I don't know. Because it really is economic. And I've been through a few galleries, a few different things, and it's not really something that I look forward to. So lately, I've been pretty much making a living off of my work, out of my studio. And so I was thinking like one day I'll be able to show some of this work that no one's seen unless you go to someone's home, an office building. And so right now, which is really cool, again, I got lucky again, is to get this show that's going to be in La Jolla, and I'll be able to show a lot of the work that people haven't seen, that people that follow some of our work. But it was you always think, when you think back, I mean, there was a struggle, but I really loved it. Time when all you could eat is oranges. It's almost like bragging rights, oh yeah, I eat oranges, and you shouldn't just only eat oranges. Things happen wrong. and also I would go to the Grand Central Market, and you can buy in those years, man, you could buy a burrito, like a little pillow, and it lasts you for like $3. Huge. It lasts you all day. You slice a little bit for breakfast. You have a lot left for the end of the day. And then, I remember those times, or people would know you, and you look kind of like, hey, I'm here for my taco. They just look at you like, all right, here, you look hungry, They give you these giant, and those were the good old days. I mean, and they would get this 7 Seas soup. The place is still there, and that'd be like, that's like connoisseur. It was so great. You even had sand in it. It was so good, Think, well, it just came from the beach, and stuff like that, and be able to see all the old films, and then see us all grow up together and get gray. It's amazing, It's really, I wouldn't miss it for, it was great. It was just great.
John, what about that gallery that was near the Norton Simon across the street? You were in there.
Oh yeah, that was the Grady Harp. Okay, yeah, that was the Grady Harp. gallery. Yeah, the Norton Simon, and there was across from the auto dealership is still there. Yeah, that was a good. That was good for a while, but again, they kind of they had financial difficulties. The guy was a doctor, and the other guy was a psychologist, and that was for a couple of shows there, and that's right.
And then when you were at the Avenue 50 and you had your studio there and you were working.
Right, that's where I did a lot of the murals, and that was in the 2000 era. Yeah, see, you can know my.
Harry, did you want to?
You know, John, you're recognized as being a realist artist, and of course, this is sort of representational. But you know, your composite and your imagination often creates sort of very dream states, very hallucinatory kind of imagery. Can you talk about how you get inspired to come up with some of these images?
Yeah. You know, when I first started, I was really doing, I would say, documenting Broadway Street. For some reason, the downtown area, when I was growing up, I grew up in Boyle Heights. And my mother never drove. I mean, she never drove a car. And my stepfathers, they had cars. But for me to get around, we would hitchhike, take the bus, and then, I know it's hard to believe right now, but I was a long distance runner when I was in high school. So I would run places, okay? And then take the bus home. And so downtown for me with the streetcars and like Clifton's, when I was a little kid, you get the little flag and you get a toy, or the Christmas displays at Bullock's. It was a dreamland to me. So when I got a studio at Victor's Clothing on the 4th floor, I felt like, again, man, this is it. I mean, I would go to the beach. So for me, it was either downtown L.A. or it'd be like Venice Beach, where, you know, Jim Morrison was or something, I don't know. So, but anyway, but downtown, and then I was really intrigued by the people because I was, and then the walls, whatever my sensibility, whatever my aesthetic was to record stuff that people really didn't want to aspire to or even look at. But I found really fascinating beauty. The reason why, I think, as I got older, I didn't go anywhere else, except for like TV and magazines. So in order to, so I had a hyper imagination. And then after a while, as going through the natural course of doing your work, confrontational figures, I started to get into, let's say, I guess it would be allegory, I guess, and maybe, like symbolism. And I always liked the silent language between people would always fascinate me, thinking, and my wife tells me, that's just you. You think people are thinking these things. And it's not necessarily true. I think, oh, that person is doing this or that person doing. No, probably not. They're just people, going about their daily, businesses and all that. But that's like in the Broadway mural, I was fascinated the way people would walk by each other and ignore each other, but still like checking each other out. This silent ritual of urban living. When I started to get into the symbolic things, that's where I got the residency in the south of France, and I get to see, European painting, which has all that, like it's right there. So it was all this timing in terms of, that's what I want to do. So when I came back from Europe after about 2.5 months, I started doing European-looking work. I finally got over it. I think it was driving my friends crazy. Like, oh, that's that Europe stuff again. I don't want to see that. But I finally got over it. And I really want to make work that I want, that I want to see. Or the thing was, I would put stuff together that had more meaning than I bargained for or something. But I always thought that I could get whatever my messages were over on people, like they're never going to figure this out. People knew exactly what I was doing, especially the people that actually wanted to purchase the work, support me as an artist, and take the work home. They saw exactly what I was doing, which is kind of humbling in a way. I thought I was smarter than that, But those kind of things. It's almost like it's almost like a writer. I use it as a writer. Okay, I remember that comparison, where I would start with a figure. I start with something or two people interacting, and that would tell me how to finish it. And that's what a writer does, right? It's like you have some characters, and they have their personalities, and they tell you where it's going if you listen to it. And that's kind of the way that the most successful work of mine works, happens.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that a lot of your work is gone now. Do you mean that the buildings have been taken down, or what's happened to them?
Oh, you mean the murals, the public murals? Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're all gone because of either earthquake, retrofitting, the graffiti, and they said, do you want to restore your mural? We're going to wipe it. Just take it off. Because a lot of those early murals we did with high schools, junior highs, high schools, community groups. So a lot of it was the experience of working with the youth to do a piece. And it wasn't necessarily my work, whatever that is, right? It was basically working with the youth. And I remember being in downtown and there was this woman that walked up to me and started talking to me like I knew her. And she reminded me, she worked in a bank, and she was one of the kids, like 10 years before, we did a mural. She went to Roosevelt. She says that was the best summer she ever had because we were out there painting on the streets, and she had her sunglasses on. She was very, it's like a bank person. And she really thanked us. Those are the moments that it really worked, that these kids were able to paint a mural. Oh, and this other thing, which really got me, where I was painting a mural in Long Beach, and this kid comes back to me and says, John, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have got the job with the Long Beach Press-Telegraph as a photographer. He goes to sports events. I go, wait a minute, I wanted that job, How did you get that job? It was like that. They end up going off and doing really great stuff, and they thank us. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm still broke over here, So I think, that was kind of fun. That was all those kind of things. So as you get older, you see that where people remember you, or they have these old photographs, like in Facebook. People keep dropping photographs, like, here, I remember this, and there you are, some age, your hair down to your belt buckle and all that. So it's kind of fun, very, very rewarding.
And then do you have a website for with some of your work on it?
Yes. I'll give you a card at that. Yeah. Yes.
Was there anything specifically that you wanted to talk about in the Highland Park?
Well, that was the major collective where a lot of us, when we joined together there, I was very fortunate to be part of that group. We did a lot of very, very interesting work, and a lot of us, stayed artists. We all stayed being artists. When a lot of us moved downtown, we were there for about 3.5 years, and we did the Zoot Suit mural for the Teatro Campesino when it was on the Lewis Carroll Theater. We did, you see some of the stuff here, like part of the punk scene, where they did a lot of the, posters and stuff. They even had some punk concerts in the Public Arts Center. It was just a really good group of people that were all together, putting our resources together, and having that was the most functional center. The other one in Long Beach, it kind of blew up because of funding. Some wanted funding, some of us didn't want funding. There was like CETA. There was CETA at that time. It's a long time ago. Some of us, we didn't want it. I was, for some reason, I wanted to be really, it came from that theater group, or I wanted to be really strident and loud people. Good luck. Not seeing that. We were just kids, But yeah, the Public Arts Center was really cool at the time, and people came from up north in San Diego. A lot of Chicano centers, and we would talk. What is Chicano art, which is the topic that nobody really said. I think my friend Gilbert Lujan, who just passed away, he was the one that really got to it. He would have meetings about what is it, trying to make sense of it. And I think we were just, at that time, we were Chicanos trying to make, we were like young Mexican-American kids trying to make Chicano art, whatever that was, with, you know, the symbolism and the iconography. And now we are, a lot of us, we are Chicanos that make art, which someone has said, I think it really fits. And it came through that process. We all joined together and then we kind of split, but we never lost contact. We're all still, you know, friends. And
That's, I mean, at this point in time, it appears there's still definitely a Chicano art as opposed to artists that happen to be Chicano.
yeah, right, well, yeah. I don't know, you know, it is, but it's almost like when you try to grab it, it kind of slips through your fingers. You know, especially if you talk to somebody else about it, and there's always different kinds of work. I've always tried to be a realist, whatever that was, and the kind of work and the challenges are to keep my work still fresh and keep making stuff that means something to me. And I mean, there was a time where a lot of Chicanos did a kind of work that was very commercial. I'd say very, you know, happy or whatever. There was a kind of these icons, but I think everything goes through. You can't always be trying to hit somebody over the head with the sledgehammer all the time. You know, I think humor is very important, and you know, just trying to say something. And also becoming, I've seen people become really good painters within the last few years, especially those of us that don't really quit. I've seen some artists that they started a few years after, you know, some of us, been there forever, but they have become very good painters because they just stay with it. And I think that's the key. It's just to stay with what you're doing, and regardless, you just keep making your work. I mean, very few of us get into this upper echelon of, you know, whatever, and they go and you say bye to them, you know, we'll see you in a while, because they turn around, come back, and it lasts a while or whatever. There is a thing about making too much money, and then, you know, you wake up, you know. It never happened to me, though.
Any other questions this afternoon?
Well, thank you, John.
Okay,
very
well,
much
thank
for
you.
being with us.
Okay, good. Thanks. All right. Thank you.